Good morning, everyone. We're just going to give a few more minutes for other people to join the webinar. We can get started. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Mayor Lightfoot and Commissioner Cox, welcome. We're excited to announce the expansion of the Corridor Ambassador Program with you through DPD Chicago Recovery Plan Program. Before we start, we want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and that all the information we will share today is already in the RFP, which will be posted in the chat for this Zoom. My name is Mary O'Connor. I'm the Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Planning and Development, managing the Small Business Advocacy Division. With us today are colleagues of mine from the Planning Department, Joanne Kirby, Frank Krezak, and David Conway. Also joining us today is Tom Anderson with the Mayor's Office. In the time we have today, we're going to highlight the major points in the RFP. We'll talk about eligibility requirements, the application process, and give you some tips on how to submit a strong application. Starting now, you can drop any questions you have in the Q&A box. You can find that by hitting the Q&A button on Zoom, which will be located either on the top of your screen or at the bottom of your screen, depending on what type of device you are using. And at the end, we will also have a verbal Q&A moderated by Frank to clarify any questions or concerns you may have. And we'll do our best to answer all the questions during the allotted time. So the purpose of today is to talk about the Corridor Ambassador Program, RFP, which DPD released on Friday, February 10th. Chicago neighborhoods, commercial corridors contribute to the city's vitality, serving residents and businesses and showcasing our diverse communities. The city recognizes the toll that the pandemic has had on our local commercial corridors. And commercial corridors across the city have seen major reductions in economic activity along with increased public safety concerns. So to continue our strong recovery in commercial corridors, the department is seeking community-based organizations that will work with the city to hire and train local community members to serve as ambassadors which would create a visible, welcoming presence at neighborhood commercial centers that will encourage residents and visitors to frequent the local businesses and amenities on that corridor. So what is a corridor ambassador? Their job is twofold, focusing on concierge service and then on safety. So the goal of the corridor ambassador is to create a welcoming environment by maintaining a clean, safe, and friendly commercial corridor. Their primary focus will be on hospitality, giving directions and parking information, as well as information on things to do, places to eat, and where to shop. They will also regularly engage with the local business owners and relay any issues to the appropriate authorities. Ambassadors will also act as the eyes and ears of the corridor. They'll be social service partners and public works by educating, assisting, and reporting to the appropriate authorities on various needs and issues such as alerting police to hazards, medical emergencies, or other possible criminal activity. And when the ambassadors aren't busy assisting citizens, they can report maintenance issues such as like graffiti, broken windows, trash, street lights out, or other problems that can degrade a neighborhood. What ambassadors are not to do is organize corridor events or activities, serve as business outreach liaison staff for business organizations, or duplicate or replace existing SSA programming, including cleaning efforts. They are not enforcement and therefore do not cite nor arrest. They are unarmed. They are not security. They do not remove individuals from private property. And the ambassadors do not have law enforcement power and are not a replacement for 911. Because of the hard work of the ambassadors and the ownership they've taken over the corridors, I wanted to highlight some of the positive impact the program has had over the last 6 months. So as we were talking about some of the tasks that they would perform over the last 6 months, cumulatively, they reported 2,800 interactions with people experiencing homelessness. They had over 21,000 engagements with our business owners. As you see, 700 incidental responses, including 911 calls. And then they also put in 311 calls for like graffiti and other city services. So you could see that the ambassadors have been very active on these corridors and have engaged with the people, and they have been positively received. Some of the other things that they highlighted was that they were first on the scene and admitted first aid to someone that was having a heart attack. And they also saw a lost child and connected them with their family. So we're really proud of the work that they have done to date. And that's why there is a need to continue this program. So the RFP deadline is March 10th at 12 p.m. Please note, not 5 p.m., but 12 p.m. And proposals must be submitted online through the e-procurement iSupplier system. Emailed or faxed proposals will not be accepted. Contracts with our selected respondents are expected to be signed by May 1st, allowing for ambassadors recruiting and training prior to the ambassadors being active on the corridor by June 1st. And the contract will expire on December 31st of this year. There may be an opportunity for another extension, but that depends on if we have the funding available. I cannot emphasize enough that you should not wait to the last day to submit your application. The e-procurement system is managed outside of DPD and the deadlines are final. So if you are not already registered with our iSupplier portal, I encourage you to do so immediately. This process can take up to 5 to 7 days. There's also training available on how the e-procurement system works, and you could find that in the RFP. I believe it's on page 9. Let me just go over some of the qualifying areas and what would be important for your corridor to be eligible. So the qualifying corridors must be in a community area that meets at least one of the following criteria. they're in low or moderate income community areas, or they experience at least a 15% drop in activity. We, this also, like, we've done this work for you, so we identify the communities that are eligible, and that's also listed in your RFP. And we want the corridors to have a like a concentration of businesses, and that we want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the local businesses and their needs. Locations should not overlap with one of the existing corridors. Again, this is on page 7, but you'll see as you see the list here, these are the corridors that we are working in the areas back of the yards. We're in Bronzeville. We have the Center for New Horizon, Greater Chatham. The list is here. Again, this is listed in your RFP. So the applications should include a plan to hire local community members, include the number of ambassadors, days and hours of operation, and an additional activities the ambassadors would engage in, such as like community outreach, light trash pickup, with the goal of maintaining a high visible program. All proposals should cover weekends and emphasize ambassador safety by planning for ambassadors operating in pairs and pairing ambassadors under the age of 18 with those of over 21. DPD is also working with Heartland Alliance to provide additional ongoing training around de-escalation, mental health, and trauma-informed communication for the ambassadors. And the ambassadors do receive a certificate of completion after they attend these trainings. I'm now going to turn it over to Joanne Kirby from our finance division, who oversees contracts, and she's going to do a walkthrough of a sample budget.
Hey, Joanne, I think you're muted.
Oh, thank you so much. So this sample budget is showing you how to sort of structure your budget. So what we did here was we separated out the ambassadors versus what we're calling an ambassador coordinator. You may call that person a supervisor or manager, whatever the case might be, but you want to show the difference between an ambassador and someone that has oversight over the ambassadors. So what we did is look at the time period between June 1st and December 31st, and there are approximately 31 weeks there. So we did a sample of if your corridor had 12 ambassadors and you were paying them $20 per hour, they were working 20 hours per week, that would be a total of $148,800. Then we did 3 ambassador coordinators, raised that salary up to $25 per hour, again, 20 hours per week at 31 weeks is $46,500. We then allotted for some equipment, uniforms, t-shirts, whatever you might have, vest, that type of thing, and any type of communication. I just put radios here, not sure if you're using cell phones or tablets, whatever the case might be. And then your administrative staff cost. Now this, again, this is listed in the RFP, and we are limiting you to 10% of the overall award to use for your own staff. So if you have, say, a project manager, a program manager, director of operations, whatever that case might be, it cannot be more than 10% of the overall award that you would charge to the budget. So you want to keep that in mind as you're structuring the budget. The other thing I wanted to talk about here was the actual staffing. You need to be very, very thoughtful of how you're going to staff this. So if you have, for instance, a smaller corridor, this is where it can get, challenging. If you have a smaller corridor and you only have 3 ambassadors, but you have 2 who call off sick, then you're struggling because you can't staff that corridor. And we need to hold you accountable to how you structure not only your budget, but your scope of work. So if you're committing to providing whatever it might be, 100 hours per week on a corridor, we're asking that you hold your end of the bargain and have that done. So you may have to have more ambassadors staffed up and then just give them, a shorter number of hours to work so that you have availability to call upon someone if someone calls off sick. Budgets, again, this is in the RFP, are expected to range between 100,000 and 425. There may be, again, smaller or larger awards based on the program design, and all of that will be reviewed after you submit your application. So the reimbursement process, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because once you are awarded, we will definitely work with you in terms of what our expectations are for the reimbursement process. We are offering an expedited reimbursement for this particular program. What that means is we have worked with the city's comptroller's office, and once we submit your voucher for payment, we notify them, they expedite that payment, and 99% of our payments for this program are paid within 7 days of us submitting that to comptroller's office. So that is something you can rest assured that you will be paid very promptly with this program. You can submit your requisitions each pay period as you're going through this program. That is strictly up to you. You don't have to do that, but per the contract, and this is standard boilerplate language in all city contracts, you must submit at least monthly. The documentation of the incurred costs will be required. What that means is we definitely need to see the timesheets. We need to see that the employee signed off that they worked 4 hours, whatever it might be that day, and then someone in admin would sign off to confirm that yes, they did work those hours. Most agencies submit their payroll report. So if you use somebody like ADP or Paylocity, submit the report for the pay period that you are vouchering for, and that will hold and show us each person you paid and the amount you paid. We do require, if you are awarded this contract, we do require a face-to-face meeting with whoever your financial person is. And by financial person, I mean the person that is going to be actually vouchering so that we can do proper training with them. We also need access to them. So I know that some agencies outsource this type of work for the vouchering. We need access to these people because if there is a problem with the voucher and we can work with you to fix it online rather than rejecting it to you, and again, costing you more time in terms of redoing a voucher, we want to be able to get in touch with that person, let them know what they need to do to fix a voucher so that we can get that down to comptrollers for payment. There is also a monthly voucher training. I'm not sure if everybody knows that, but I will give, I think it's David, the information so that you can have access to that. Right now, they are working on the calendar for 2023, but there is a regular monthly training for vouchering in that iSupplier system. So we want to get that information to you. That's just a little extra help. But again, we are always available to help you with your vouchers. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
You're welcome.
So as you know, there's gonna be reporting requirements. So you will be required to maintain requested data including ambassador hours. There'll also be some weekly and quarterly data reports. We'll be asking like for incident reporting, things like that. And then any other record keeping that were in compliance related to the American Rescue Plan Act. In addition, we at the beginning of this program, we meet weekly, so it is mandatory that the program supervisor or at this so it should be like the executive director or whoever submits this application, as well as the ambassador supervisor, to attend these weekly virtual meetings. And it's lessons learned. People ask questions, we're able to address anything that the ambassadors are facing at that time. So it's a pretty informative meeting, but it goes quickly, but we find it beneficial to the program. And then it's just our how do we the evaluation and our for the application and the scoring criteria. It's pretty much what we just went over. Program design, you just have to, it's going to be worth 45 points. It just demonstrates the corridor's need. Again, the strength of the proposal, that you have a clear understanding how many ambassadors you would need in the hours that they would be working, and then how you would train them. And then the organization's capacity is 35 points. And that's, again, the financial capacity. This is a reimbursement program. We do expedite this payroll, but you would need to carry it for a short period of time. And just your overall responsiveness to the questions, and making sure that you are ready to launch by June 1st. And then the budget information that Joanne just went over. And then and these are just some tips of, again, it's kind of recapping what we just talked about, corridor needs, strength of the plan, engagement of the local talent. We really stress the importance of hiring locally and making sure that you have a strong team to manage this program. And then we'd like to know your other, if you have other contracts with the city, if you're working on other programs with DPD. And that's pretty much it. So we are here now to answer any questions, and we're excited to see your proposals come in. We will be awarding probably between 5 and 8 proposals or applications. Thank you. So Frank, do we have any questions yet in the?
Yep. So the first question from Tracy Murray is, can you hire a full-time ambassador?
Yes.
Great. The second question.
Joanne, do you wanna touch on that?
Well, see, the thing is, if we don't have any full-time ambassadors in any of the current programs, Mary.
I thought we had some of our supervisors. So we aren't, okay.
No, the supervisors are also part-time because this is it's a temporary program.
Okay.
So I believe the answer to that would be no. It wouldn't be full-time.
Okay. All right. Second question is from Dylan. How firm is the limitation to space between corridors? For example, could the blocks along Clark Street and Andersonville, along with a corridor along Broadway and Lakeview East, be feasible?
I'll get back and look at it. I think there would be an opportunity there, but I'd have to go take a closer look.
Right.
So Dylan, you could just email us directly and we can look at that, pull up a map and look at that closer.
And Michael Edwards asked if we can, I believe we can share the PowerPoint.
Oh yeah, we'll share the PowerPoint after today.
Great. Wanda Wright asked if we could see slide 13 again. I could share.
Oh, that's is that the application criteria? Evaluation?
Here. 13. All right, so there's slide 13, and then Sandy Price asked if we can outsource the ambassadors to a local company such as Clean Slate, for example.
Joanne, I'm gonna ask you to cover that question.
Okay,
please.
so you could outsource, but I want you to keep something in mind, and that is that 10% limitation. So for instance, if Clean Slate is charging you, say 22% on top of the salary that the ambassador is being paid, you cannot be reimbursed for that full percentage. You can only be reimbursed at 10% admin cost against the award itself. So you want to keep that in mind. And again, be very thoughtful when you put your budget together in terms of using a company to outsource.
The goal of this program is to have as many ambassadors out on the street, and we don't want the money to be eaten up on management fees. And so that's why we feel very strong that we can't exceed that 10%.
Exactly, right. And if you want to go back to the slide where we did the sample budget, you'll see that what we did there is roughly 88% of that award is eaten up by the ambassador salaries, and only 2% we used for the uniforms and radios, and again 10% on the admin cost. So if you follow this example, you'll be okay.
And then we got a question, is the city adding corridor ambassador programs, or are current corridors up for reevaluation and potentially a new ambassador? So these are, sorry.
I'm sorry, so is the question of our current corridors, they do not reapply. We will be meeting with them to talk about extending their contract.
Yeah.
And going over performance.
Yes. Yeah. And then we got a few questions asking if there's an age requirement for ambassadors.
We would recommend like 18 years and older. And we would hope that there would be a balance of, between like 18 and 26 or older, just so that the ambassadors are on the street have some, experience.
Then Baxter Swilly asked, are the monthly voucher trainings unique, or are they the same training every month?
I believe I attended one last year, and I believe that they are the same each month. But again, if you have anything specific that you're looking for, you can always contact me and I can work something out in terms of getting you the training that you need.
Great. And then Chris asked, how long does the program last?
The program will run through the end of this year, December 31st. And we are continuing looking for additional funding to expand it through next year. But at this point, we just have funding through the end of this year.
And then Sandy Price asked, for equipment and uniform purposes, are we allowed to buy that stuff outright, or are we required to lease it like we did for the storefront activation grant?
So
uniforms, radios, things like that, I believe.
I'm going to give that back to you, Joanne.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So we would prefer that you purchase it outright, not leasing.
Great. And then a few people are asking to clarify on if this is an extension of the existing program or a new program. Or are people being reevaluated for extensions that already have corridor ambassadors?
This is an extension of our ambassador program, so we're expanding, up to another 5 to 8 corridors. Our existing corridor managers that we have contracts with, we will be extending their agreement. And we will have a separate, they would not submit an application to this. We will have other meetings with them.
And then there was a question if there are bilingual resources for bilingual communities.
Yes. But is anyone asking for additional bilingual information for this application? Or is this just when it comes to the training and communication within their corridor?
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
The trainings.
Training.
Okay, yes.
Oh, no, we got another one. Ambassadors. Ambassadors are, okay, sorry, I'm reading a question. It says, hello, ambassadors are expected to, quote, get to know our business owners, but they're not to collect data, etc., as this would be deemed liaison work. So I'm not quite sure what the question is.
I think it depends on what they're referring to of collecting data. But I mean, the goal of the ambassador is to go in, introduce themselves to the business owner or the manager, make sure they understand their concerns, if there's any, but I'm not sure, I guess it depends on what they're trying to ask of the business, what they're looking for of the business owner. But they are not an extension of a Chamber of Commerce or an SSA. This is a separate program. If that helps answer the question.
Okay, that looks like all the questions we had in the chat. Oh wait, we got another one. Sarai Guerrero asked if the chamber and its programs are separate, are we allowed to associate? So I'm guessing yeah, I think if they're allowed to associate with the chamber and its programs, I mean, yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry, Frank, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry, this question's kind of confusing. If the chamber and the programs are separate, are we allowed to associate? I think.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. All right.
We can just give a couple more minutes. Tom from the mayor's office has joined us as well. Tom, is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think you've covered it. I think you've covered it, Mary. I would just say, if there are any follow-up questions, or if you have kind of, you just want additional clarity on the questions you've asked, feel free to reach out and we'll provide you, the best answers we can to help guide you through this process.
Frank, will you just go back to the last page of the presentation? So it just on the bottom, it shows our email here at DPD. And so if during the course of you filling out this proposal, feel free to email DPD, and we check that inbox several times, and we will get back to you as soon as possible to answer any of your questions. Okay, I'll give you 20 minutes back. Thank you for participating today and joining this webinar We are excited to see your proposals, and we look forward to working with you and meeting your ambassadors this summer. Have a good day.
Thanks, Mary.
Frank, did something else just pop up in the questions?
Yes, but I think this is a question we can email this person directly.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks.